Welcome back, folks. I'm Frizz, and today I'd like to take some time to talk about the Alchemist. It's been a long time coming, seeing as the Alchemist is one of the most frequently talked about classes in Pathfinder 2e. See, the Alchemist has been fraught with a bunch of problems ever since they were released in the core rulebook, and while I don't think that the class as it stands now is remotely unplayable, so long as you have good system mastery, in Player Core 2, Paizo is going to be giving the Alchemist a complete overhaul. So let's talk about what I'd like to see from this overhaul based on the problems that I have currently with the Alchemist class. First off, I have two main issues with the Alchemist as it is now. First off, Alchemists just don't have good proficiencies. They basically have the same proficiencies as full spellcasters, but the power of being able to spontaneously create alchemical items just doesn't make that a fair trade. Yeah, alchemists do basically function like a spontaneous spellcaster, who can make every alchemical item as an action, instead of, being able to spontaneously cast spells. But those alchemical items don't generally have the same punch as similar spells of similar levels. Boosting the alchemist proficiencies would be one way of really helping them out. I think that allowing alchemists to have martial attack proficiency scaling that's delayed by probably a level or two would be fantastic. And also they should totally have legendary class DC proficiency, because, really, outside of the kineticist and the alchemist, what class would have legendary class DC proficiency? Just giving them better proficiencies would allow for the alchemist to be a more active combatant and use their own tools a lot better. The other problem I have with alchemists is reactivity or playfeel. While you absolutely can play an alchemist well in a way that's really impactful, it doesn't always feel super effective. Using bombs to deal super consistent splash damage can feel nice, but it relies on enemies having a weakness that you can exploit. And it isn't just as noticeable how much of an impact you're having whenever you give your entire party fire resistance. Spellcasters can also have a bit of this problem, where the impact of their actions isn't immediately apparent. But the problem is that basically everything an alchemist does feels pretty passive, whereas spellcasters are going to have flashy spells available. We're playing a fantasy role-playing game here, and I think that classes should feel cool to play, and not require looking at the mechanical and mathematical impact of your abilities to see that you're having a cool impact on the game. Addressing this last issue I have with alchemists is a bit more involved than just changing their proficiencies, but I think that the key to it lies in their research fields. Right now, they aren't all that complicated, but I could see them being some very interesting changes that would make the alchemist feel way more active in fights, and while they are more involved changes, that's what Paizo's doing, so that's kind of par for the course at this point. Alright, so just to be blunt here, I think that the bomber research field needs the least tweaking, especially if alchemists have a better attack proficiency. But I could actually see the Churgeon research field being tied up within the bomber, or at least the healing bomb feat being an option to allow bombers to have more of a focus on healing. Basically, I can see Churgeon alchemists being reduced down to a series of feats that alchemists have access to, rather than being an entire subclass of their own, focusing exclusively on healing. Just focusing entirely on healing within a whole subclass doesn't feel quite as good. So I could see Churgeons being a subpart of the class rather than a full subclass themselves. Plus, Healing Bomb really feels like a bomber ability rather than a Churgeon ability, because you're throwing a elixir of life with so much accuracy that it lands in someone's mouth. That's a bomber thing, not a Churgeon thing. For mutagenist alchemists, I could see a couple of ways of adjusting them to make them feel better. For example, taking a mutagen as a mutagenist could give an adrenaline boost, which increases their damage and speed, but it might, for instance, make the drawback of the mutagen worse. Alternatively, they could learn to be able to add different boosts to apply to their mutagens, like giving temporary HP whenever one is used, or maybe just other interesting benefits that they could add to just make their mutagens more interesting whenever they hand them out to other people. Or maybe these could be stronger boosts, but you are the only person that can actually benefit from them. Mutagens are a bit hard to work out since they're just long-lasting buffs, which mean it can be a little bit hard to make them feel really interesting to use, but I wouldn't mind if mutagenists just hulked out whenever they took a mutagen. It'd make them feel a lot more unique. Finally, toxicologist alchemists are in the toughest place. Giving them a better attack proficiency and class DC would absolutely help them out because it let them use their poisons better. But the biggest hurdle in the way of all toxicologists is simple. A lot of enemies are immune to poison, and when your entire subclass focuses on making poisons better, that's pretty rough. So, toxicologists don't have a way to get around this ability right now, which I think is the one way to make them stand out, is just to give them the ability to bypass poison immunity. Now, I would not actually say just allow you to poison anything. Instead, I could see toxicologists having the ability to change the damage of a poison into acid damage instead of poison damage. And you could get the ability to select different damage types by taking different feats. It helped give them a unique mechanic and kind of niche, and just deal with creatures that are immune to poison. Like, being able to poison a ghost is a really unique character, and I think that that's a bit of what the Alchemist needs. I really do love the concept of the Alchemist class, but they just haven't been backed up mechanically for like years now. Yeah, they absolutely can work, like fine, but you have to have so much more awareness for every single alchemical item available to you than any spellcaster has to be aware of their entire spell list. I do find the part of the class that focuses on making the exact tool you need at the drop of a hat fun, but I would like to see that part of the class being placed on top of a chassis that can actually help make the class more fun to actively play and more badass to witness, because we're here to play big damn heroes, and as it is right now, alchemists are all supporting characters without really the ability to be one of the main characters. Thanks for watching. This video has been on my mind for a long time, but I figured now would be the right time to actually make it, considering that we don't know what the changes to the class is going to be in Player Core 2 yet. Anyway, what do you hope to see in the final version of The Alchemist? Let me know in the comments down below, and please consider subscribing and joining as a member while you're down there. My members help out an incredible amount, and they mean a lot to me. But regardless, until I see you next, live a wonderful life.